President Trump has unveiled to Congress how many US troops are stationed abroad. Only the biannual White House report omitted some key figures. In the paragraphs talking about Afghanistan, Iraq and Syria, not a single number was given. Troop numbers were disclosed, though, for Jordan and Lebanon. The omitted figures come as a surprise, given that the US Defense Secretary apparently revealed them himself a few months ago.
We have approximately 11,000 troops in Afghanistan, and that is seen in our addition of over 3,000 U.S. troops arriving now and in the coming months to extend NATO's advisory effort to Afghan troops that are currently without.
The number for Iraq is 5,200, and the number for Syria is 2,000.
When the White House provided figures on troop involvement abroad 6 months ago, some were surprised. A number of US lawmakers had no idea that American soldiers were stationed in Niger.
But I didn't know there was 1,000 troops in Niger.
You heard Senator Graham there. He didn't know we had 1,000 troops in Niger. Did you?
No, I did not.
And according to a report by the US military journal Stars and Stripes, as many as 44,000 US troops stationed across the world are not tracked by the Pentagon. That's of 1.3 million in total. Around 300,000 US personnel serve outside of America in more than 150 countries in the world. We have requested a comment from the Department of Defense. They said that some personnel are indeed marked under unknown location. That's due to them being out at sea, for example, while also adding that data center figures may indeed not accurately reflect the current force totals, leaving it open to debate just how many of those 44,000 could be unaccounted for. Okay, let's bring in a guest to discuss this story in more depth. Former US Senator Ron Paul, and indeed founder of the Ron Paul Institute. Pleasure to have you on, sir. What do you make of the fact the numbers were not unveiled by the White House? Basically just numbers of troops missing. What could possibly be the reason behind this?
Well, unfortunately, we don't get like surprise. It's sort of the routine, especially with the new administration, because the president has stated that he wants to keep everything under his vest, because he doesn't want people to know, and he believes that's proper policy. But it's not good law, because the Constitution said he's not allowed to send troops around the world without the people and the Congress knowing about it. And we also had added to that was the War Power Resolution after the Vietnam War, that said that they must report where the troops are. But here it is, thousands. The numbers have been thrown around, 44,000. They don't know where they are. But I have a suggestion for them if they were interested in cleaning up this mess, because it's wrong, and that is bring the troops home. Then we can count them here at home. But it's when they're in 150 countries or more, it gets very difficult, especially if they say, well, this is secret. We can't let the people know. We can't let the enemy know where our troops are. So they put the American people in the category of the enemy, because we're not allowed to know. And my institute, and I've been in Congress and I've been on the Foreign Affairs Committee, I'm not allowed to know. And you just quoted a couple that are supposed to really know what's going on. They may be very happy and satisfied with it, but they still don't even know what's going on. So it's really government out of control. But it's what this reflects is a foreign policy that our institute, the Ron Paul Institute, disagrees with. We don't think it's in our interest. We don't think it's in interest of our security, and we don't believe this brings peace, and we don't bring it prosperity. So we have practical reasons and legal reasons why we don't think these troops should be overseas. And if there's any of them overseas, we should know exactly where they are, because who knows? They may be shooting off guns and bombs and drones and getting ourselves into a mess that we don't want to be in.
Now, James Mattis had blamed this problem previously on the fact that he inherited it. It wasn't a very good system. That's why they didn't know where troops were. Let's just have a listen to what he said.
There's a very strange accounting procedure I inherited that what I'm probably going to end up doing is putting everyone into one thing and saying, here's how many are really there now, because it's more, I found out, than what I'd read in the newspaper when I got here.
I find it amazing. He's basically blaming the accountants here, and he's saying, if we lose some soldiers, it's not my fault. It's, it's the paperwork. But who's going to hold Mattis and Trump to account on this? Presumably, the politicians would consider this to be a really big issue, and as you said, unconstitutional.
Yeah, but they don't seem to be real worried about it. I think in the people, we try to awaken the people to what's going on, and we haven't been very successful on that. They're too complacent. But we should know, because it's very serious, and not only is it a legal issue, it's a very dangerous issue. It's a financial issue as well. So the big problem is what are they doing there? But the problem here is, for us to change this attitude about where the troops are, we have to change our foreign policy. That is one of our goals at the Institute, is try to say that our foreign policy is wrong. We're interventionists. We tell other people how to run their countries. We get involved in elections that we shouldn't be involved in. We're the policemen of the world, and it doesn't serve our interests. So what we need to do is change people's minds. But I'll tell you what, the propagandists for getting us involved in war, whether it was the lead up to the Iraq War, or even under Obama when he led up to say, hey, Assad has to go, and look how long we've been there, and that didn't do us any good. But the propaganda by the deep state, because they have a lot of control of the media, they have a lot of control of the money, the military-industrial complex has a lot of influence with the members of Congress and at big bucks. But my theory is it's all going to quit, because empires like this end because you end up either getting into a deep problem overseas or you run out of money. I think we're going to run out of money, because we really have, but our credit is good still with foreign governments and foreign central banks, because we print money like crazy and still everybody takes it, but less so than they used to. And I'm very much aware of that, and that sort of is the signs that eventually that will change our foreign policy, and also the runaway welfare spending, which should be a goal if you want to live in a free society.
What do you make of the report by the Stars and Stripes? Even if you take into account some missions are classified, it still leaves a large number unknown. I mean, could this be used just as an excuse? You know, we don't know where the troops are, it's incompetence, but actually they could be used for covert operations?
Yeah, I'm sure they are, and that's their excuse, but that should not happen in a republic. I mean, the people are supposed to know what's going on. The people are supposed to speak out. The people are supposed to tell their members of Congress when we should get involved in hostilities. And once again, it's a theory of what our responsibilities are around the world. And that is not what we accept at the Institute. We believe that our role should be to develop friendships and trade with countries. Every country in the world is imperfect, including ours. But our immediate goal should be to improve ourselves and not pretend that we can tell other people how to live and who should run their countries, even though there are plenty of problems around. But I don't think other people like us to take this role of secretly putting troops around the world and interfering and saying, well, we're going to improve your governments and we're going to tell you what to do. And if you don't do what we want, we're going to put sanctions on you. So, that is why I think we're losing credibility, is because right now sanctions used to be absolutely automatic, but people can get around sanctions, and that is their desire. They'll get around them one way or the other, and I think this moves some of the countries in the directions of how can we escape the dollar system, and that's big stuff. If people leave the dollar, I think our country is going to be in worse shape, and I've argued that case for a long time, that if we lose control of that, that's going to be very damaging. But right now, this is what's happening. People are getting disgusted, and they would like to have an alternative reserve currency. Of course, I believe in a reserve currency, but believe it ought to be gold. I don't believe it should be done by any politician or any government. It shouldn't be fiat. It shouldn't be just printed money. That's how governments really get into trouble, and they overextend, and they live off debt. And you can't live off debt forever. Individuals can't do it, and eventually governments can't do it.
Wow, the printing of fiat money, that's a conversation we really could get into. Unfortunately, no time for that now, but maybe some other day. I certainly hope so. Former US Congressman Ron Paul is my guest. Thank you.